Well, it's continuing with the servicing of this old Mark 1. Now, historically I've serviced my cars every sort of Christmas time. That was when I was a worker and I'd have my annual holidays and I'd spend it servicing the cars. And that service was sort of not just change the oil, it was also clean them up, tidy them up, make sure everything worked, find out what's wrong with them, fix it if I can, or put it off to another time if it was a bigger job. And one of the jobs I used to do every year was fish oil them. And it hasn't been done for some years, as quite a few jobs on this car haven't been done. That was because I retired and I downsized and generally had too much else on my mind. But now things are back to some sort of normality. I thought we'll get back to this full-on service. Now the old fish oil gun that I had was very similar to this. Had a smaller sort of pot thing on it. In fact, as the fish oil came, that tin actually screwed onto it. Well, it got old. It was 30 or more years old and stopped working. So I thought, oh well, I threw it away when I downsized. I thought I'll buy a new one. Well, fish oiling cars is no longer a sort of fashionable activity, and end result was I had a devil of a time buying one. You know, here in Australia we have these sort of big warehouse style tool shops, and the embryo behind the counter there had absolutely no idea what I was talking about, and that drove me to smaller shops, you know, spray painting sort of panel repair shops, and at least they knew what I was talking about, but they hadn't seen one for years and obviously didn't sell them. That drew me to the internet, and I bought this on a popular auction site. And who knows, I haven't tried it yet, but the first problem I've struck is the size of this hose. Now the old one I had was considerably smaller, and all the holes that are drilled in this car that you stick this thing in and squirt fish oil are way too small. And so the first thing to do is drill some more holes, or drill them bigger anyway. So let's get on with that. The other thing it doesn't do is stand up. You put it on the bench and you let it go and it falls over. Hopefully it won't do that when it's got fish oil in it. Alrighty then, let's get on with this fish oiling. It's a bit of a messy job. Doesn't smell as bad as it used to. Years ago this stuff used to really have a pong to it and would hang about for weeks in the car. But these days it seems to have been made better. Oh yeah. Love the smell of fish oil in the morning. Well, this bought over the internet fish oil gun is not really good. This pot thing, it's going to fall off. It fell off while I was cleaning it. But there, it's the hose come off with the pressure. It's just a piece of junk. But we've got the car fish oil. It's certainly not going to last the 30 years that my old one did. But then I'm not going with it either, so. Well, better put these trim bits back on. Don't you just love old cars? Imagine trying to do that on the Toyota. Probably all some silly plastic clips that'd all break. All for the sake of what they think looks good, when nothing wrong with a good old screw. So I got this old car. The old man bought it as a body shell for a sort of $200, I think. It was a rough old car that was used for motorsport, but it was just a bare shell, sat in our backyard for a couple of years before we did anything with it. Ultimately built it into what it is today. And so it's probably 30 years ago that we put shock absorbers on the back of it, and during the cleaning down process one of the shocks was covered in oil, so some new shock absorbers are in order. And seeing the other ones lasted so well, I figured I'd buy the same sort of thing. Some bushers. These are KYB sort of gas pressured shock absorber. I just put a jack under the trailer gun, take the weight, because the shock absorber limits the travel of the suspension, and if you don't do that, well, that spring's going to go bing. So let's undo some bolts and nuts. Leaking oil or not, there's still got some gas in it. That was the one that was all oily. Alrighty then, let's get these new shocks in. Now these are a gas pressured shock, so they're trying to come out sort of thing at the moment. Well, that's one side done. Let's get on with the other side. Well, that's all the fish oiling done, and the rear shock absorbers are done. So let's move on to the next job. Well, next job is down here under the old Mark 1. It's leaking oil from both the rear seal in the gearbox and the speedo drive. Now, I'm not going to attempt to fix the seal yet because I don't have the part. It's coming, but Christmas and everything, it hasn't happened yet. But I will try and fix the speedo drive, and I'm just going to silicone it up. Now it seems to be leaking more from around where the sort of outer cable meets the fitting that goes on. And so I'm just going to get a piece of hose and some silicone and silicone it all up. Basically, it'll work for a while, and I'll do the seal when the new part comes. Well, first thing to do is get this cable undone. This speedo drive cable. Yeah. Now the plan is to put this bit of hose over the top of the speedo cable, fill it up with silicone, tape it up. Once the silicone sets up, it should slow down the oil leak with a bit of luck. Did I mention I hate silicone? Oh, well, here goes nothing. Silicone everywhere. It's going to be the result of this exercise. Put a couple of cable ties around here, hold sort of thing. No idea if this is going to work or not, but it's cheaper and easier than another speedo cable, especially when this cable is part of the Brandt's sort of trip meter gadget, and it's not a Triumph part, it's something we had made. Silicone. Hang on, where's that silicone coming from? Anyway, I don't want to particularly try and do that. I don't even know where I'd get a speedo cable made these days. The company that made this one are gone out of business. Oh, it looks pretty anyway. Now, that speedo drive up there, the speedo drive here has got some O-rings on it. Now, I don't have replacement O-rings, but if I put some silicone behind there, that will help that if that's where it's leaking. Now, some oil might come out here. The smell of gearbox oil in the afternoon. Now, all these bits of cardboard that I lay on make it easier to slide under cars and what have you. But how much I try to keep it clean, this sort of thing happens and ends up a mucky mess after a while, and you got to throw them out. And, well, unless you're going to buy a new fridge or something, where do I get another bit? Well, I better get that nice and clean, or the silicone won't stick. I might just have a bit of a look-see. Never know, maybe I do have an O-ring for it. Surprising amount of oil coming out of there. Well, I did manage to find a new O-ring. I'm going to put some silicone on here just as well. It's not going to hurt. Yeah. Alrighty, the first problem is to get this tail shaft off. This car's in gear, so I've got to get out and up again. Alrighty, I'm going to mark this tail shaft so that it lines up where it came off, just in case there's a balance thing. You know, better be safe than sorry. I'm going to mark it in two ways. Get a centre punch and just put a mark on the tail shaft and a mark on the flange, and also got the old white marker. Of course, the white marker stuff comes off. Alrighty, what we have here is special tool JC1, better known as a piece of aluminium bar with a couple of holes drilled in it. And what we're going to do here is bolt it to the flange on the end of the gearbox, so that when I try and undo the nut, this will hit on something, I suspect the ground. So let's get on with that little job. Now, years ago I made one of these with just a bit of steel then, and but I've moved several times in that time, and I'm sure I saw it somewhere when I was packing and unpacking stuff, but I can't find it, so I've had to make this new one. Alright, we've got a 1 1/8 socket here. Let's see if it's the right one. And we have a breaker bar. And yes, it is going to hit on the ground. So, how tight's this? Oh. Well, it's not tight at all. I was expecting that to be exceedingly tight. Thank goodness. Now, it'd be a lot easier if I had a ratchet here with me, but that would mean getting out from under this car again, and I'm not going to do that. Well, this is amazing. I really did think this would be super tight. I wonder what the torque setting is to do it back up again. Maybe it's not a tight thing. Oh. Oops. Dropped it. For the sound of a lawnmower in the morning, eh? Well, that's about it for this episode. Will the oil seal get fitted? Will the car ever go? Who knows? Tune in, same duck time, same duck channel for more mechanical mayhem on this poor old Mark 1. Bye for now.